This is the Audi Q4 e-tron. It's Audi's dipping their toe into the kind of mid-size SUV electric solution here in Ireland. Just over 40 grand gets you into the entry-level car. That's an advanced model with a smaller battery, 58 kilowatt hour. This version, a bit of a jump. You're talking sort of 47, although this one is about 57 because it's got extras like blind spot and upgraded leather and a few other things, convenience packs, luxury packs. That's kind of the name of the game with Audi because they want you to pay for everything. USB ports in the back, storage nets in the back of the front seats. You can, in one way, tailor it exactly as you want it, but in another way, you can just keep on ticking option boxes because that's what Audi want you to do. This version is the larger battery. It's a 77 kilowatt hour usable. It's actually 82 in total. On a good day, that might get you 500 kilometers. On a bad day, it might get you low 300s. But it is doing about 19 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers, about 3 miles per kilowatt hour. And then multiply that by 77 and you'll get some idea of your range. Again, depending on temperature, time of year. It's about 5 kilometers for those of us watching in Ireland. But a lot of you watching in the UK have asked me, can I cover metric? So no problem. Done. We're sitting on 19-inch alloy wheels, some sort of arm. Audi like the word arm in their alloys. So these don't actually automatically go in, but there's actually not much movement on them all the same. Roof rails, you'll get them as standard. They'll be black, depending on whether you get S-line. There is a big plastic bit down here. If you don't like that, you want to get a darker colour so you don't see it. There's a standard, I think it's pebble grey is the standard. The one you want is Aurora. It's like a kind of a purpley, it looks very, very good. And size-wise, kind of like an ID4, not as chunky as a Skoda Enyaq, even though it's sitting on the exact same platform as the ID4, ID3, Enyaq, all those cars. There is a Sportback version, but even this version, it's kind of low and sleek enough, I think. You can get Matrix headlights, which are fantastic, but they're also fantastically priced. These are standard and I think really, really bright. Nice daytime running light strip here, and there's a good throw of light at night time off them if you're driving country roads. No need for air here, so it's a big grille. Very, very big. Not sure how you feel about that. We've got a light strip around here, isn't always on. Bits here do light up, obviously. There's your main brake light. Embossed down here is eTron. The boot is very light, so when you close it, it sounds really tinny for an Audi. But the doors are like, boom, take your hand off. 35, 40 and 55 are the performance outputs. Nearly 300 brake horsepower, all-wheel drive. Will we see many of them in the Q4 in Ireland? I don't know. All models in the UK get electric boot release, not here. Depending on what spec you've ordered for your boot, you can have convenience packs and comfort packs and luxury packs. So you might get netting here. You might get an adjustable floor, which means you can tidy away your cables down here, which some people have commented on videos, and it is a good argument. If you're full of luggage going away and your cables are under there, it's kind of a hassle. But I think if you're doing going away journeys, you'll be using public fast charging, so you'll just be connecting up to the port on the side of the car. Anyway, those Type 2 cables might take you about 12, 13 hours to charge from zero on a wall box. But fast charging a Q4 has some advantages over its cousins, particularly in Volkswagen. More about that a little bit later on. But it is handy having that, so you can just, drop the floor if you don't need it. There's some LED lights that keep it nice and bright, and the boot is 520 litres, so it's very, very handy. Just very surprised at that. This is where you charge the car. So your CCS charging goes in here. Now, compared to Volkswagen, for example, all models of the Q4 get 125 kilowatt charging. That means in 38 minutes, you'll get to 80% using a fast charger. This is what I mean, like TUD-wise, right? Sounds like it would take your arm off. But the boot, just a strange difference. So you've got heat insulating glass inside, and actually it's a pretty cold day today. And when you jump in, it's very, very toasty. It's nice. So you have an armrest, decent size, holders for the cups. I don't seem to be able to get access to the back of the car. If you raise this middle headrest, kind of blocks your view out the rear view mirror, but head height is excellent, as is foot height, foot space, knee space. You want nets, it's extra. You want USB-C charging, it's extra. You can get like 3-zone dual climate control. You'll get climate back here if you do that, but man, it's a spicy price. Flat floor, so even your middle passenger should be okay. You will absolutely fit 2 child seats back here, of which there's places for them to store their water bottles, and you can child lock the car from a control panel up the front, which makes it easy if you've got one child who's a bit more trustworthy than the other, and this one clearly isn't. Same down here, very easy place to store your cups. Audi have now gone in this car with the ID3, ID4 style haptic buttons. They're a bit of a mess. I keep hitting mute or voice control or the phone button just to hire up some tunes. Now thankfully they have also given us the little jog wheel thing here, which as jog wheels go in cars, that would kind of sometimes be a bit of a mess, but actually it's got it spot on. So I really like that. I really like the steering wheel. It's flat at the top, flat at the bottom, and kind of spokey and futuristic. Good job there. In my opinion, everything inside is best in class for this type of car. Again, it's just Audi, it's what they do with interiors. Some people are not a massive fan of this floating area, and I see why, because it's kind of, you know, you got the volume on it and you've got your gear selector, but generally, you know, you're not going to use that often. And you need to use down here, of which there's vast space now, in fairness, to store things. I was nearly able to fit a MacBook down here. 2 cup holders, a bit more storage under the armrest here, which does slide and adjust. But yeah, that's going to be a love-hate for people, I think. You can pre-program the car to be warm in the morning and, you know, charge at certain times and cheaper rates, and whether you have like a really cool deal where you can charge for most of Sunday for free, as I know a lot of you do. It's a pretty good deal actually, and if you actually have a really good deal with an energy provider, why don't you leave details below in the video, because other people I think will save a lot of money rather than just taking what they've known forever. When you get an electric car, you're now charging and using energy a lot more, so you should probably shop around and try and get the best deal. If you can help each other with that, do. And actually while you're there, if you would like to help me, you can subscribe, you can comment, you can like, you can Patreon us for €5 a month, £5. Wouldn't buy you 2 coffees in Dublin. Buttons that will control your automatic air conditioning all works here, so there's no screens for that. There are screens for lots of other things, weather, setting up the car, connecting up CarPlay, of which is wireless, but the software and stuff is excellent. I've no complaints there. Regen braking, you can have different severity levels of it using the paddles. You can let it work away automatically in the background. There is also a B mode, and as I mentioned, yeah, it's cold enough. Like, what is it now? It's 8 degrees. We're doing about 19 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers fuel economy. That's over the last 800 kilometers, so it's fairly reliable, I think, in terms of that. Otherwise, it's very Audi-like inside. There are some things though that are a little bit strange, like the fact that at this price of this car, there is no reversing camera. It's just a sensor. You might argue the fact that you've got to add some safety gadgets like blind spot and collision avoidance. That generally works very well. You might argue that that's a bit rich as well. That frontal collision avoidance does generally work very well. However, you know those little white island things that stick up at the side of the road? I was on a narrow enough road today, coming towards one of them, cars parked in the street on the other side, and the car went to slam on the brakes. And I really am for all this technology that, you know, makes cars safer and reduces crashes and claims and all that stuff. That's all really good. But when this stuff isn't totally flawless, it's kind of annoying, because someone could have hit me or thought I was acting the goat, slamming on the brakes. And, you know, the technology can't always be spot on, but when it's there to take over from you, you kind of want it to be. Drove this car in the M50 motorway here in Dublin and Ireland, if you're watching from outside. It's absolutely spot on. So solid, so planted. There was no issue, just trotting along, and it's a heavy car. You feel that sometimes when you're trying to bring it to a stop. I find you're giving the brake quite a bit of a squeeze. You do get used to it, but again, if you're coming from a car that doesn't weigh about 2 tons, it might be something to to think about. This version is the one you want. It's the 204 brake horsepower version. It's not astonishingly quick to 60, although it does feed it because it's got quite a bit of torque going on. But if you go for the entry level with the smaller battery and the less performing output electric motor, it might just feel all a bit too much for the weight of the car. If you want things like speed sign recognition, that's an optional extra, as is the pack, as I mentioned, that gives you blind spot and lane departure and rear cross traffic monitoring. All really good aids to have, but they will cost you extra in the Q4. This version has a pack that has nav on board, but the CarPlay maps are absolutely spot on. And if you get, for example, a glass sunroof, you won't see much change out of a fairly hefty €2,000. Now, as a little experiment, I'm just going to, haven't checked the app, haven't checked anything. I'm just going to drive to a public charger here in Dublin Airport, and I'm going to see if I can just pull up and actually charge this car, or will there be issues? Nearly at the fast charge now, but will it be free, or will there be a taxi driver and a Kia e-Niro inside it? While this car is very, very planted at motorway speeds, no issues there at all, there is a good bit of body roll in it. You do feel the weight. Now, if you have the dual motored one with Quattro, that will be the daddy, but you do feel a bit of weight. But, you know, the steering is fairly direct, fairly sharp, again, for the weight of this car. I don't think there's anything too much to complain about. I see a taxi plate. Will it be a Leaf? Will it be an e-Niro? It is a Leaf. So he's on CHAdeMO. It's an older Charger. He's parked across the other way as well. What's the point, you know? You just keep on going, and that's, like, I don't need to charge. I've got 230 kilometers in the range, so it's grand. But it just kind of does your head in. Very little wind noise over this, even at higher speeds. Bit of a blind spot thing going on with the A-pillars. They're quite big. Last night I was coming out of a T-junction, I was going right, and I thought there was nothing coming towards me, but the width of that A-pillar was so big, there was a small car behind it, and I was like, oh, time to stop. I'm going to try one more charger just to see. It's about, I don't know, 2 kilometers away. It's another 50 kilowatt, because finding anything faster in Ireland, it's a hard job. I do really like this car though. It's you know, it's got everything you'd want. I wouldn't get this colour. It's a bit of a meh colour, but the interior's good. Feels very planted. Range is, I can't complain about the range at all. It's been really, really good. Like, obviously getting that extra large battery comes at a price. It's kind of reassuring to jump into a car and see like 480 kilometers on the range when you jump into it, you know. There's a lot to be said for it when you're driving an EV and you don't want to be stopping for public charging and waiting for Nissan Leafs. So I've actually just checked that other charger that's also in use by a CHAdeMO. It's probably another Leaf. It has to be a Leaf. It's either a Leaf or a Lexus. So I'm just going to quit while I'm ahead. I'm going to head on home and charge, and I won't even think about it because it'll be plugged in like a phone. But it just proves the point. Like, both those sites, there's one charger in each one. I don't want to be a broken record over this, but like, come on lads, ESB. Some of the installers in ESB have gotten in touch with me and said thank you for highlighting how slow it is. Like, they keep putting up new chargers on their ESB eCars page in the north, and they're going to do loads there, and here's a new one in Cork. Grand. What about Dublin? I think because Dublin got so many at the start, well, so many, there's a feeling that other areas need more priority. And you know what? They probably do. But can you just give us a few sites with 2 chargers on the one site? Please, on behalf of electric car owners. They're screaming out for them. Yeah, we can charge at home. Sometimes it's not bloody convenient. And this car can charge really, really fast. And most chargers in Ireland, apart from an Ionity, won't charge at that speed. Also bloody annoying. Rant over, Audi. It's not your fault, in fairness. You've made a lovely car. And I'd happily drive it for a long time to come. If you're an Audi driver and you want to go electric, then just jump head first, feet first in and get this, because you're going to love it. It still feels Audi-like, it's very futuristic, and it's electric, so what more do you want? Now, it is going to get expensive, and an Audi Q4, well-spec'd. Would you prefer one of them? Then a kind of mid-spec one of these. The interior is a lot nicer than this, and it's got an Audi badge up front and on the back and on the sides and the windows. And for some people, that means an awful lot. So like I said, if you're a fan of Audis, if you've been there before, it's going to be like slipping into an electric, comfortable pair of slippers. Thank you very much for watching.